The gavel struck, silencing the murmurs. All eyes turned to the young boy at the defendant's table. He was accused of trespassing, but something deeper was unfolding. The judge readied herself to proceed when the boy's gaze locked onto her. His heart pounded. He studied her face, so familiar, yet distant. Then his voice, trembling but resolute, shattered the silence. "You're my mom." Gasps rippled through the courtroom. The judge froze. Reporters rushed to capture the moment. This was no longer just a trial, it was a reckoning. Was it too late to change the past, or was this the moment that changed everything? The courtroom was packed. A heavy silence filled the air as rows of spectators sat with bated breath, their eyes shifting between the judge's bench and the defendant's table. At the center of it all sat Malik Carter, a 12-year-old boy, his small frame swallowed by the oversized wooden chair. His sneakers, worn and scuffed, barely touched the floor. He clutched the edge of the table, his hands trembling as if holding onto the last shred of hope he had left. Across from him, Judge Evelyn Monroe presided over the case. A woman in her late 40s, she was known for her sharp, no-nonsense demeanor. Her reputation as a strict enforcer of the law was well established, particularly in cases involving youth offenders. She flipped through the case file with an expression of detached professionalism. "All rise for the Honorable Judge Monroe," the bailiff announced, his voice reverberating through the high-ceilinged courtroom. The room shifted as everyone stood, stiff and wary. The weight of the proceedings loomed over them. Judge Monroe barely glanced at Malik as she took her seat. "You may be seated." The shuffle of feet subsided, and the room fell into a hushed stillness. "This case involves charges of trespassing and loitering," Judge Monroe began, her voice measured but firm. "Defendant, you are accused of unlawfully entering private property without the owner's consent. Witnesses claim you were seen loitering in the area before security was called. The prosecution argues that this behavior was suspicious and a direct violation of local statutes. How do you plead?" Malik swallowed hard, his wide brown eyes darting to his public defender, Marcus Hayes, who knelt beside him. The lawyer whispered something, but Malik barely heard him over the pounding of his heart. His throat tightened as he forced the words out. "Not guilty." The judge gave a curt nod, jotting something down in her notes. "Proceed with opening statements." As the prosecutor began outlining the case, Malik's gaze wandered. His heartbeat thundered in his ears, drowning out the words being spoken. His eyes darted around the room, taking in the expressions of the jurors, the quiet intensity of the audience, and the steely composure of the prosecutor. But then, his gaze settled on Judge Monroe. Something about her face sent a jolt through him. A strange, unsettling familiarity gripped his chest, making it hard to breathe. His pulse quickened. His hands, already trembling, clenched into fists. He searched her face for answers, for something to confirm what his gut was screaming at him. His breath hitched. He knew that face. He had seen it before. Not once, not twice, but for years in the form of old, faded pictures his foster mother had shown him. A face he had dreamed of. Recognition dawned like a sudden sunrise, blinding and overwhelming. His stomach twisted. His fingers dug into the table's rough surface as a mixture of shock, anger, and disbelief washed over him. Before he could stop himself, the words tumbled from his lips, loud enough for the entire courtroom to hear. "I know you." Judge Monroe blinked, her pen freezing above the notepad. "Excuse me?" Malik's hands clenched into fists. His voice was shaky, but it carried through the silent courtroom. "You're my mom." Gasps rippled through the gallery. Someone in the back whispered, "What did he just say?" For the first time in her career, Judge Monroe looked completely caught off guard. Judge Monroe's expression hardened. "What did you just say?" Malik's voice cracked as he repeated, "You're my mom." The courtroom erupted in murmurs. Journalists scrambled to take notes, fingers flying over keyboards. The prosecutor sat frozen, his carefully prepared speech forgotten. Even Marcus Hayes, Malik's attorney, shifted uncomfortably in his seat, at a loss for how to proceed. Judge Monroe's grip on her pen tightened. Her breath came sharply as she straightened in her chair, forcing herself to maintain composure. "This is inappropriate," she said, her voice firm but wavering at the edges. "We are here to address the charges, not personal, unfounded claims." But Malik wasn't backing down. His voice grew steadier as he met her gaze. "It's not a claim. It's the truth." A hush spread over the courtroom, a charged stillness before a storm. Even the court clerk hesitated mid-note, her pen hovering above paper. "Sit down, young man," Judge Monroe ordered, her voice sharper now. "No!" Malik's voice cracked, but he didn't care. The weight of everything he had been holding inside surged forward like a flood bursting through a dam. His hands balled into fists on the table, his breath came in ragged gasps, and his body trembled with the force of emotions he could no longer suppress. "You don't get to ignore me. You don't get to pretend I don't exist." The room seemed to shrink around them. His words hung in the air, heavy and unrelenting, pressing down on Judge Monroe like a force she couldn't escape. The sound of cameras clicking echoed in the background, capturing the defining moment of the trial. Reporters, previously watching in idle curiosity, were now fully engaged, writing furiously as the weight of Malik's revelation sent shockwaves through the courtroom. "I have spent my entire life wondering where you were," Malik continued, his voice growing louder, each word laced with pain. "Every birthday, every holiday, every night when I closed my eyes, I imagined you coming for me. But you never did. You never even looked for me, did you?" Tears burned in his eyes, but he refused to blink them away. His whole life, he had felt invisible, discarded like he didn't matter. And now, finally, he had the chance to confront the person who had abandoned him. He wasn't going to let her walk away from this moment, not again. "I needed you," he whispered, his voice trembling now. "I needed you more than anything in the world, and you left me. Why?" Another gasp swept through the crowd. The weight of his words hit Evelyn Monroe like a tidal wave. "I remember your face," Malik pressed on. "My foster mom showed me a picture of you. She said you were scared. She said you wanted me to have a better life. But why didn't you come back for me? Why didn't you even try?" Judge Monroe opened her mouth, but no words came out. Her mind raced. This can't be happening. Not here. Not now. Before anyone could say another word, the courtroom doors swung open. A woman with tired eyes and kind features stepped in hesitantly. Malik turned, and his face crumpled with emotion. His chest tightened, and for a moment, he forgot to breathe. "Miss Anita!" The judge's stomach twisted. She recognized the name, Anita Caldwell, the social worker from all those years ago. The woman who had sat with her in that sterile office, documents laid out before them, telling her in a calm, soothing voice that she was doing the right thing. The woman who had assured her that Malik would go to a good home, that he would be loved, that she was making the best decision for both of them. Now, standing there in the doorway, Anita's face was lined with years of experience, but her expression was the same, gentle but firm, filled with a kind of sadness that only time could deepen. Malik's breath came in quick, shallow bursts. His hands curled into fists at his sides, but he didn't look angry. He looked desperate, pleading. "Why is she here?" Judge Monroe finally managed to say, but her voice was hoarse, nearly unrecognizable even to herself. Anita took a slow step forward. "Because it's time, Evelyn." The room felt like it was closing in, the weight of years pressing down on the judge's shoulders. A decision that now threatened to destroy everything. Inside her chambers, Evelyn Monroe's hands shook as she pulled open a drawer. Her fingers found an old photograph, the only thing she had left of him. A baby, wrapped in a yellow blanket, his tiny face scrunched up in sleep. She traced the edges of the photograph, her breath hitching. She had tried to forget. She had spent years convincing herself that what she did was right, that Malik had gone to a family who could give him everything she couldn't. She told herself it had been an act of love, a sacrifice, a painful but necessary choice. Yet late at night, when the world was quiet, she would think about him. Had he been loved? Had he been safe? Had he ever wondered about her, just as she had wondered about him? She had always pushed those thoughts away, telling herself there was no point in dwelling on the past. But she had never checked, never followed up. The truth was, she had been too afraid to know. Afraid that the reality of his life might unravel the carefully built walls she had placed around her heart. And now, here he was, in her courtroom, not a distant memory, not a whisper from the past, but real, standing before her, shattered, desperate for answers, demanding the truth she had spent a lifetime avoiding. A knock on the door jolted her. "Judge Monroe?" Anita's voice was gentle but firm. "May I come in?" Evelyn hesitated before clearing her throat. "Come in." Anita stepped inside, closing the door behind her with deliberate care. She met Evelyn's gaze with quiet knowing, her eyes filled with the weight of years of understanding. "You have a chance now to give Malik what he's been searching for his whole life. A sense of belonging. A truth." Evelyn swallowed hard. her hands resting tensely on the desk. "I don't know how to face him," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "What could I possibly say to make up for everything? How do you undo years of absence, of pain?" Her fingers traced the wood grain on the desk, as if searching for the answer within its surface. Anita sighed, taking a step closer. "Evelyn, this isn't about erasing the past. You can't change what's happened, but you can decide what happens next. He doesn't need an explanation as much as he needs to know that you care, that you see him, that he matters." Evelyn turned away, blinking back tears. "But what if I fail him again? What if it's too late?" Anita placed a firm yet gentle hand on her shoulder. "It's not about making up for the past. It's about showing up now. And that starts with walking out of this room and choosing to be his mother, no matter how messy or difficult that may be." Back in the courtroom, Malik sat hunched over, his fingers fidgeting nervously. Anita knelt beside him, her voice warm but filled with understanding. "She's scared," she said softly, offering him a small, reassuring squeeze on his shoulder. "Just like you." "This isn't easy for her either, Malik." Malik sniffled, his fingers curling into his sleeves as he rubbed his damp eyes. "I just want her to tell me why," he murmured, but his voice wavered as if he was afraid of the answer. He took a shaky breath and stared down at his lap, his thoughts swirling in a storm of emotions. "I don't get it. Why didn't she come back? Why did she just leave me?" His voice broke at the end, and he clenched his fists to keep his emotions in check. Anita stayed quiet for a moment, watching the way his small frame trembled under the weight of his past. "I think she just didn't know how," she finally said. "Sometimes when people make painful choices, they convince themselves that moving forward is the only way to survive. It doesn't mean she stopped thinking about you, Malik. It just means she was afraid of facing what she left behind." A moment later, Judge Monroe emerged. The courtroom hushed. She stepped to the bench, her voice measured but thick with emotion. "This court is here to address legal matters," she began. Then she hesitated. "But I realize now that there is something far more important at stake." She turned to Malik. "I owe you the truth." Tears welled in his eyes, but he stood tall. His breath hitched, but he forced himself to hold her gaze. "Then tell me." Evelyn inhaled deeply. For the first time in her life, she let her walls crumble. A sharp exhale escaped her lips as she steeled herself for the hardest words she'd ever have to say. "I was young. I was scared," she admitted. Her voice trembled, thick with emotion. "I thought I was doing what was best. I convinced myself that giving you away would give you a better life, that I was being selfless, but I was wrong. I was afraid of what keeping you would mean, afraid of what my parents would say, afraid of failing you." Malik's lip trembled. "Do you even care now? Or am I just some mistake you're trying to fix because you got caught?" Evelyn felt those words slice through her like a blade. She took another step forward, willing herself to meet him in his pain. "I have thought about you every day of my life," she said, her voice breaking. "I have wondered where you were, if you were happy, if you ever felt loved. And I was too much of a coward to face the truth, that I left you alone in a world that wasn't kind to you." She swallowed hard. "I can't change the past, Malik, but if you'll let me, I want to be part of your future." A long silence stretched between them. The weight of decades hung in the air, thick with unspoken words, shattered trust and raw emotion. Then, slowly, cautiously, Malik reached out and took her hand. His grip was hesitant at first, but as she held on, he didn't pull away. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was a beginning. What do you think of Malik's story? Would you be able to forgive the past and embrace the future, or would the weight of betrayal be too much to bear? Let us know in the comments below.